This season on The Couch, Falz the Bad Guy and Laila Johnson Salami place your presidential aspirants on the hot seat.
This guy want to put me in trouble. I won't allow you.
No, but
Okay.
no, this is a very important and sensitive topic, I believe.
The truth.
Okay, do you think that right now, people that have a certain sexual orientation are being discriminated against?
I don't know. I don't believe so.
The excitement.
C'est le moment de faire la fête, c'est le moment.
And the totally unscripted nature. Oh wait, but what is on the couch?
It's a relaxed style. I don't want anybody to come here and tight your chest. I don't know, stronger face. This kind of setting is all relaxed. You have your stocking, you have your shoe, put on your knicker.
It's On the Couch with Falz and Laila.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Kingsley Moghalu. Doctor, if I'm correct. Doctor.
Mr. is correct, Doctor is correct, Professor is correct.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Great stuff.
What a profile.
Why do you want to be president of Nigeria?
Well, a number of reasons, but the most important thing is just the poverty level in a country like this that has so much potential to be one of the big emerging market giants of the world, like Brazil or Indonesia, you know. And then instead, now we are the poverty capital of the world, with 87 million people living in extreme poverty, more than India, which has a population 7 times that of Nigeria. They are 1.3 billion people, we are 200 million people. And we have more people in Nigeria living in extreme poverty than in India. That just breaks my heart and it just makes me mad. I just can't stand it. I'm tired of sitting on the fence. I'm tired of living a good life for myself while there's so much poverty around me. I'm tired of, being a technocrat, sitting and being frustrated by dumb politicians, crooked politicians who take the ultimate decisions because it's the elected political authority that has the ultimate power. So if you really want to make a change, I felt that is where I should be. Yeah, to be able to make the vision real.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
It's obvious that human capital development is therefore the solution to eradicating or uplifting Nigeria from our current poverty statistics.
Sure.
But in as much as human capital development is a huge focus, we need to also look at how we're going to get there. So if you were to strategize working towards the focus of human capital development in Nigeria, which unfortunately nobody has done for us so far.
Absolutely.
How would you do that?
Well, as a professor, this is something that comes naturally to me, and as a former policy maker in the economic sphere. The thing to do is to understand what actually drives successful economies. Successful capitalist economies are driven by 3 things. The first is property rights, the second is innovation, the third is capital. Now, these 3 things can only come about when you have a base of human capital that has what we call productive knowledge. That can only come through a certain type of educational system. An educational system that prepares our young kids and our young guys and girls for the 21st century, gives them skills that are relevant to the world of today. IT skills, digital skills, technological skills, skills in entrepreneurship, that sort of thing. But meanwhile, the educational system in Nigeria is just very theoretical, and the teachers in Nigeria, garbage in, garbage out.
What are your views on state policing?
It's necessary, and that's part of the restructuring debate.
Even though 14 states right now cannot survive on internally generated revenue and require federal allocation to actually thrive.
That's why I say that restructuring Nigeria should not be on the basis of states, and state police should not come before the country is constitutionally restructured. And restructuring should be on the basis of regions. All the 6 geopolitical zones in this country are viable, but individual states, many are not. But if you bring them together as a geopolitical zone, they are viable.
Do you have any
economically.
particular views, though, on the special anti-robbery squad?
Sometimes you cannot distinguish between them and armed robbers.
Facts.
We've seen them commit a lot of atrocities. So I think that they really, really need to be sanitized. That's part of what I talk about.
So you don't think they need to be ended? They just need to be sanitized?
They need to be sanitized. Armed robbery is something that needs to be fought.
But when you spoke of starting from scratch, what
Yes.
does that mean? Does that mean clearing out the entire force?
No, it means retraining them. It means they must be retrained, and you have to hire new people. We only have 300,000 policemen
adding
in
to what we
Nigeria.
already have.
Yes, exactly.
But
But they all now go through the
And we
same
need,
training.
I was looking at the UN global minimum. Isn't it, it's 400 people to one officer? Or is it 450?
Something like that, about
Okay,
450.
That's why I asked that question
Yeah.
about the 1.5. Is that
Yes.
to go with the minimum?
Well, it will go over the minimum, actually. Yeah.
Speaking to a policeman one-on-one,
Yes.
sometimes it's quite depressing.
Yes.
You think to yourself, is this really a police officer?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you are adding
Wait till you carry.
really like this, like what is really good?
Now wait till you carry. That's the job of the police here. My friend, how now? How body? How country?
Happy weekend.
Your brother there. I beg, greet us now.
So when you speak of adding to the police force,
Yeah.
that means that the people that exist now, that are unqualified and barely educated, will stay in the force.
Many of the police people we have are bodies, human bodies. But a human body doesn't make a good policeman or a good policewoman. Many of them are not well trained. They certainly are not well equipped. And many of them are not well motivated, which is why we have a lot of corruption. And, of course, at 300,000 policemen for a population of 200 million, we are, of course, severely under-policed. So that's why it's necessary to recruit and train and equip a modern police force.
So you would employ afresh.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
But how do we get there? Because if we're looking at the current MPF,
Yeah.
the entire MPF is made up of people who took the job as their last option. Like, I can't do anything else. I probably don't have a degree. Let me just become a policeman. But if you go to any other country in the world, it's not perceived in that way. Being a policeman, being a security agent is a service to your country. It's one of the proudest occupations that someone can have.
Absolutely.
How do we get to that level in Nigeria? Because the average graduate at Unilag this year, or Yabatech, or Uniloring, or wherever, is really and truly not thinking of becoming a police officer because it's so undermined and underpaid.
Yeah, good. Well, what's the job of a leader if not to take on challenges and solve them? Now, the first thing I would do as a president is to address the country on the national security situation and what we are going to do to bring it, to turn it around. That means you must now begin to create a vision of a new police force in the minds of Nigerians that begins to change the perception of citizens, that citizens have of the police. When you begin to do that and you're communicating as the president of Nigeria, setting out concrete plans and setting out a vision of what a new police force should be, and you begin to put it in practice by maybe changing the conditions of service, changing certain things, you begin to see people attracted to becoming a policeman. There are certain, look, there was a time in this country when, being an actor or being a comedian was a joke. Today, it's a very respected profession. So we cannot assume that because today the police is a joke, that if you have a good leader, such as I propose to be, then it will always continue to be a joke. No, it won't. It's possible for us to change our realities.
What's the time scale, though? How long is it really going to take to revamp the Nigerian police force to actually be a force for the people and also by the people?
Yeah.
Because as it stands, I really do not see a difference between a SARS operative and an armed robber. And
As
a lot
I
of
was saying.
Nigerians do not. Exactly. So how long is it actually going to take to wipe all the bad eggs out of the system and create a force of freshly trained officers?
Yeah. Now, first of all, the president has only 4 years in office, after which he can go for another 4 years if he is re-elected. But in 4 years, I believe, in the first 4 years, it is quite possible to turn around the Nigerian police force. I don't see it as something that cannot be done. It can be done. And in fact, let me tell you how I intend to achieve a lot of the vision I have for this country. When I become president, there will be 4 offices in the presidency. The first one, that will be critical. There will be other offices, but these 4 units will be very critical to achieving plans and making visions into reality. The first office is the Office of National Strategy. The second is the National Office of Risk Management. The third will be the Office of Performance Management. And the fourth will be the Office of Human Capital Development. These 4 offices will form the cornerstone of my presidency. The National Strategy Office will design the broad sweep, the milestones, the broad vision, the goals. The Performance Management Office will check on every government department as to how they are performing on the benchmarks that the strategy has set, which are their responsibility. You see what I'm saying? And if any part of the government is not meeting its responsibilities or its performance benchmarks, there will be accountability. Heads will roll. Now, the Office of Risk Management will help me as the president manage the risks that prevent governments from delivering on good governance. Many of those risks abound in Nigeria today. It could be political risk, they could be operational risks, they could be corruption risks. You see what I'm saying? So these risks can be managed, they can be mitigated. And the Office of Human Capital Development will help develop a public service that is skilled, knowledge-based public service. So these are modern 21st century approaches to governance that I'm going to bring in as president of Nigeria. They did not exist before.
How do you ensure, or how do you select people to occupy these offices and ensure that they run these offices with competence and transparency? Because, I mean, what we see in government,
I know.
They set up a committee, they set up a committee,
exactly.
another committee.
Yeah, but that's this. What I'm telling you is a very different idea from setting up committees upon committees, or committees to review the work of previous committees. That's a joke. That's a time-wasting circus that incompetent politicians engage in Nigeria. What I'm proposing to you is a structure and substance in management, and I will people these offices with professionals. There will not be any politician within a 100-mile radius of these 4 offices, I'm telling you. There will be a place for politicians, but not these 4 offices.
Where is the place for politicians?
Oh, the place for politicians is in political appointments, like there will be ministers who may have political gravitas. There may be special advisors who may have political gravitas. There are places in government where you would see political people. And when I say politicians, there are a lot of people who are going into politics now who are technocratically competent people.
Okay, let's actually touch on your appointments,
Sure.
etc. for a second.
Absolutely.
We already know how patriarchal Nigeria is as
Yes.
a country, and
Absolutely.
we have serious issues when it comes to the representation of women
of
in
women.
politics.
Yeah.
Global minimum 33%. Nigeria's own non-existent.
Yeah.
Now,
14% now.
Yeah. Is it actually 14 now?
Well, that's where it is.
Nothing to celebrate. How do you intend on getting Nigeria above the global minimum of female representation in politics?
Very good.
I'm very concerned.
I'm very concerned too, actually. And I have a very strong passion for gender equality and gender equity. I've made it very clear in my blueprint that we will target and execute a 50-50 gender policy approach to political appointments in Nigeria. One man, one woman, and we're talking about qualified men and qualified women. There will be no tokenism.
So I read it in the papers recently that in the last 10 years or so, a ridiculous amount of money has been spent on defense.
Yes.
And we have seen a ridiculous rise in insurgency. How would you tackle insurgency, first of all?
The way I would tackle insurgency, the way I'll tackle national security is to have a more sophisticated understanding of national security. This government came in with a very simplistic look at national security. They were just focused on Boko Haram. For you to deal with insurgency, you have to fight it on at least 2 or 3 fronts. One, what causes insurgency? Is it a question of unemployment? Is it a question of lack of education or an opportunity for young people, and therefore they're drifting? Is it exposure to radical indoctrination? And then you have to combat insurgency militarily and with intelligence. So it's a holistic approach. Deal with the root cause, economic opportunity. That's what I believe. It's very important. 2, education. educate people so that they don't fall prey to indoctrinations by violent people. 3, you must confront it militarily, effectively. 4, you must confront it with intelligence, using the community system and so on. That's how to fight insurgency everywhere in the world. And you're kind of using it in different degrees. Now, other aspects of national security I would look at in this way. You have to have a professional national security team that's composed based on professionalism, not parochialism. The current national security leadership in Nigeria is extremely parochial. It's not necessarily chosen because of professional reasons. And that's a problem because it undermines trust throughout the whole country, if you see what I'm trying to say. Then you have to have the political will to deal with national security challenges, including insurgency, including the herdsmen, including kidnappings, including all sorts of crimes. Now, when I talk about sophisticated definitions of national security, do you know that the fact that the population is rising in this country, unemployment is rising in this country, poverty is rising in this country, is a national security concern waiting to explode? But I don't know that anybody is analyzing that.
I have a greater problem, though, when it comes to insurgency that we face, because I think one thing that's often ignored is the fact that Nigeria has no central database collection for its people.
Yes.
200 people can die anywhere in Nigeria right now. And I can swear on the life of everyone that I love that the government will not be able to come out and name at least 50 of those 200 people.
That's true.
We don't have a central database.
Absolutely.
Your fingerprint is basically unregistered.
Absolutely.
You cannot keep track of the people that you have in your country.
Absolutely.
For all we know, maybe we have a population of 210, maybe our population is 150.
Yeah.
We don't even know.
Yeah, absolutely.
How important is it for Nigeria to start building a central database from now? And what are the steps that we need to see from now? And I'm not talking as if I'm talking from the start of the 2019 elections and the newly elected president.
Yeah.
What steps do we need to see from today, this
Absolutely.
night, 10 p.m., whenever?
Well, you will not see those steps because those who are in charge of governing you are busy trying to get elected. So let's accept the reality that nothing is going to change unless and until a new government comes into place that is competent in 2019. So you can entertain yourself by talking about now, but you look at the government, what are they doing? People are defecting from one party to the other. They're not talking about your national identity.
Okay, but even with a new government
So
coming in
what should you do? Good.
How long does it take to create
Good.
a database?
It shouldn't take very long. This is a process that can take a year at the maximum if it's done very well. And there are many ways to go about it. There are people who are experts in these kinds of things, You bring them in, empower them, set up the system, and judge performance. There are many, and you explain to everybody in Nigeria why we need to have this database. People still do not understand why we need such a database. And so they may attribute other motives to it when you start it without properly educating the public as to why that we must have evidence-based policy making in Nigeria. How do we get you schools? How do we get you hospitals? How do we plan for your education? How do we plan for jobs if we don't know our numbers and have a record of everyone? You must educate people on these things first of all. But this government and Nigerian governments in general do not educate Nigerians. They don't dialogue with Nigerians. There is no exchange of knowledge or views it's just a detached system where the politicians are just functioning for their own benefit and the citizens are left on their merry, own. And that's just terrible. Now, talking about national security, you must also talk about the borders of this country.
Very porous.
Nigeria's borders are so totally porous. People just walk into Nigeria. I don't want to sound like a certain guy in America, but we might have to build a wall. Nigeria's borders need to be secured from Benin Republic, from Cameroon, from Chad, from Niger Republic. People just walk into Nigeria. And then some people will tell me, ECOWAS protocol on the free movement of persons.
Does that building a wall mean Nigeria having to pull themselves out of ECOWAS?
No, it doesn't. But pulling yourself out of it, being in ECOWAS doesn't stop you from building a wall on your border. You are still a sovereign country. The treaty on the free movement of persons means that you can come into a West African country legitimately. If you're a national security threat, you can't come in. ECOWAS or no ECOWAS. Let's be clear.
Okay. What do you make of our lawmakers and the excessive benefits and perks?
Our lawmakers
of being a legislator in Nigeria.
Our lawmakers are very, very comfortable, and they're not productive at the level of their comfort.
How do you think we can rectify the situation?
The National Assembly is an independent organ of government. The best way to deal with the National Assembly in this country is for the people to be politically educated, to know and hold their National Assembly representatives accountable to them. And if people feel that National Assemblies are just busy creaming off a lot of money for themselves and doing nothing, they should recall them. There is a provision for recall in the Constitution. Has it been actively, aggressively used across the board? You go to the National Assembly, you see some of them sleeping on national television. Have their constituents said, this guy is useless, he should come home?
I think a lot of people don't even know about
that. Yeah,
that's the thing. That's why I talked about political education being so necessary in this country. Our people are not politically educated. We need to know our rights, to know our responsibilities, and to know our power as citizens.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say is your biggest achievement as a person?
My biggest achievement as a person. That's a tough question. I want to be very honest with you. Because I don't mean to be modest. I'm a person of many achievements. And some of them, however, have had a lot more meaning to me than others. My biggest achievement, I could say, are two things. Setting up the Isaac Moghalu Foundation with my hard-earned salary 12 years ago when I was in the UN, and giving scholarships to poor children in our rural communities, giving them access to education, especially girls. That is something I have done that is very deep in me. Secondly, writing the book, Emerging Africa, How the Global Economy's Last Frontier Can Prosper and Matter, which is used all over the world. And I was appointed a professor largely because of that book at one of the most prestigious universities in the United States. Some people may tell you, oh, being deputy governor of the central bank is a very big achievement. Well, yes, but it is not necessarily, in my mind, the most important achievement I've made in life. Impacting people's lives, not necessarily holding a position, is what matters to me.
What do you do for fun?
Well, I chill out and watch movies. I watch Falz the Bad Guy. This is Nigeria.
You listen to a lot of Falz?
Yeah, I listen to it. See how we're living now.
Songs.
See how we're living now. See what I'm doing now. Yeah,
but
you know.
What are your favorite genres of music? You know.
I like gospel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like gospel. I like
You're a Christian.
I'm a Christian. Yes. I like I like jazz. I like rhythm and blues, R&B. Yeah, good old. There's certain people, and then of course a lot of the modern music now that is really very nice, very cool. Yeah, pop. You have techno. You have Davido. This kind of young people. Yeah, cool.
How do you keep fit? Play any sports?
I walk a lot and I cycle. Okay. I like walking and I like cycling. Yeah.
What's your favorite food?
Rice and plantain, very plenty. RSVP.
Now, I feel like I want to switch up the subject a bit because I feel like there's something very important that we should touch on you with. Falz just released a new song recently. You may have heard it, Child of the World, and he spoke about the rape culture in Nigeria.
Okay, absolutely.
And I think it's one of the most serious issues that we are facing in Nigeria today. And unfortunately, I don't know how we can put this to an end. We have a national orientation agency, but at the end of the day, we're looking at people who are aged 20 to 40, 50, however old, that are perpetrators of sexual violence and rape. And how do you educate those people against something that is imbibed in their culture and in their system?
Is there any culture that encourages sexual violence?
There is a strong rape culture in Nigeria.
No. Okay, you're talking about a culture of violence. But I thought maybe you were talking about a culture, as in...
I don't know. There are cultures that encourage child marriage, hence our heinous statistics for child marriage today. Cultures that encourage FGM, hence our heinous statistics for that as well today. Cultures that encourage girls not to even go to school, hence the fact that we have the most amounts of girls, 5.5 million, out of school in Nigeria today.
Yes.
So we have a lot of oppressive cultures towards women in particular, and this is a serious issue.
Yes, I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
What's the
And
way
I
forward?
think the way forward is social and behavioral change education. And I believe it is the responsibility of the government to formulate that sort of educational curriculum and create centers of learning where, using traditional rulers, I think we need to work a lot through our traditional rulers.
Why?
Oh, because they have influence on local cultures. If you're talking about cultures that encourage child marriage, why shouldn't you be talking to traditional rulers who may be encouraging those kinds of cultures or may be opposed to it, depending on their own personal leaning? You know, so the traditional rulers are very important in changing anything we consider a sociological culture or ethnic culture in Nigeria, or religious culture. So traditional rulers, religious leaders, we should get them together, and other types of community leaders, and run programs and use the mass communication methods to tell millions and millions of Nigerians why sexual violence is wrong and should not be tolerated. And then, of course, the law enforcement must step in with accountability.
The law also needs
The laws need to be updated.
from my
Yes.
time
Yes.
of it,
Yeah.
a short period of time.
Absolutely.
I remember that the law on rape, obviously rape is a crime.
Yeah.
All crimes have to be
Absolutely.
proven
Yeah.
beyond reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
Now there's a particular requirement in the law
Yeah.
that requires you to bring evidence of an eyewitness to a rape.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, that's right.
hypothetically speaking, if someone was going to rape someone, then they're not going to say, "Hey, come and watch you."
Exactly.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Our laws need to be updated.
Yeah.
Definitely. We need to have a review of the laws of this country, and see, you know, which laws are outdated and which ones should be amended, and, you know, and that there you have to work with the National Assembly. So, lot of work to be done. Lots of work to be done. But important thing is to have the political will to do it. Important thing is to have the capacity to do it. The relevant knowledge and experience that comes with that level of responsibility. So when I become president, we
You'll
are
scrap
going.
that.
We're going to have a focus on human capital development. We're going to run an economy that is based on innovation. That's what will happen when I become president. And we are going to set up a 1 trillion naira venture capital fund that will pump capital into this economy.
And would that revolve around research and development in
Yes,
particular?
it will fund if you invent some wonderful idea, product, yeah? That venture capital fund will help to take that invention to industrial scale. That's what happens everywhere else in the world. And the venture capital fund will help a lot of young men and women who have no jobs today to set up new businesses. And it's not a loan. The fund will invest and have equity in the business that you set up, maybe 30, 40%. But you've set up a business, no dime came from your pocket. You don't have to be paying back loans at 30% interest rates that will kill you. This is what my government will bring into this country. And it's going to be amazing. You will see the transformational and stimulative effect of a massive pumping of capital.
So in that system, the government would then have a stake in the business.
Yes, the government will bring 500 billion naira, and private sector people will bring 500 billion. But the private sector part of the partnership will run the fund. It will not be run by the government. And the 500 billion is already earmarked. This 500 billion naira social investment fund, which is not achieving any purpose, it's just a pipeline of waste and corruption. They'll tell you they're paying 5,000 naira every month too. And I'm looking for people who get this. I haven't seen. There are all sorts of allegations of corruption there, you know. We will abolish that whole nonsense and turn it into an economically productive investment. This is not a welfare state. You cannot set up 500 billion naira and you're dishing out 5,000 naira a month to people, which has no productive value. You're not creating wealth. You're just creating a culture of dependency. Do you see the difference between the way I think and the way this government thinks?
What would you say is one of your biggest regrets in life?
Oh, wow. One of my biggest regrets in life is that I do not speak French.
Do we have that in common?
Je
parle en français, mais je pense que
je ne parle pas français.
Ton français est plus bien de mon français. Je ne sais pas si...
Pas vraiment. Je parle un peu, mais il n'est pas courant.
Donc tu ne comprends pas le français maintenant?
Oui. Je comprends, je parle un peu. Je parle un petit peu, mais, you know, il n'est pas... Yeah, très bien. Très bien.
You drive a Bentley?
No. No, I can't afford one. No, I drive a Honda Civic and a Jeep. Just two cars.
That I used to take some of that.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I'm open, you know, I mean, you can come and check me out.
What's your favorite country that you've been to?
Oh, favorite country. I have lived in many countries. I lived in Cambodia, I lived in Croatia, I lived in New York, I lived in Tanzania, and I lived in Switzerland during my career in the UN. And of course, I visited almost 100 other countries. I liked living in Tanzania, and I like Nairobi, Kenya. As president of Nigeria, education is going to be one of my top 3 priorities. We're going to reform the education system. There are 4 specific steps I will take as president to reform the education system. Step number 1, teacher training. We will have to retrain all the teachers in this country and get them recertified to be fit for purpose, to teach and bring out children who are fit and equipped for the 21st century workplace. Number 1. Number 2, we're going to undertake curriculum reform. We're going to move the curriculum away from all these theories, more towards practical things, vocational skills, technology, entrepreneurship. Number 3, we will change the way our students learn. We cram notes and regurgitate them in exams. We will begin to teach our children to think originally, do more research papers, original research. As a professor in the States, in the US, my 100% is divided as follows. 60% for your research paper, original research paper, 20% for class discussion and engagement between you and your fellow students and the professor, 20% for class attendance. So if you miss any of these things, there's a holistic way the whole thing is packaged. You will not get your full marks. But you can miss class and be a truant for a long time. Just come in, cram the notes, or sort out yourself, as they say in the universities, and get the exams and pass. So, and then we're going to have to reform educational infrastructure. We're going to bring equipment from learning in the modern age into our secondary and primary schools. We're going to make sure that in federal government institutions, students have tablets, laptops with which they can learn, and other modern educational skills. What I would then do that addresses your direct question is that I'm going to focus a lot on foreign investment in the education sector. So, for example, I'm going to go after world-class universities, MIT, Yale, Johns Hopkins, Tufts, those kinds of schools. I'm going to now make Nigeria an attractive place for them to come and set up campuses. So you can have a world-class MIT education inside Nigeria, and you don't have to go abroad. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah, and that's already happening in many countries.
What about a world-class Nigerian university education inside Nigeria?
But that's exactly what the educational...
Why can't UI be the next MIT? Why can't Uniloring
or
Bafemi Awolowo? Like, why can't we have universities that are competitive on a global standard?
But that's precisely what reforming the educational system will be geared to do. But the educational system will be an open market. There will be a mixture of Nigerian universities that are world-class, and we can allow foreign universities to come and say, what we want is human capital development. Isn't that what we said? Good. So you bring in a mixture of solutions that takes you to that solution. That's all I'm saying.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Falz the bad guy, you're not going to get away scot-free. There's something you're going to have to do before we close this show. Wow. You're going to have to teach me a perfect shaku shaku dance step. Or whatever dance step you want.
Adjust the camera. Let me have music.
Music, man.
Give me that friend. You have my music on your phone. What's wrong with it?
Yeah. Bad guys in the building. I told you I'm the life for the party. Why your guys want to try to lead that be? Beating head don't go, make me want to hack. Super give me them side, Sholo Maggie. Mommy see I no be legal spender. I got a shitload of that legal tender. I'm thinking how we met is not coincidental. I can make your life just a little better. Have you ever been to Lagos? Have you been with a guy from my city? Hakuna Matata. I like your matako, my titi. Le pétou est magique. Et fini les chevaux danser. Tu es magnifique, mais la pista élégant, enchanté. Mademoiselle, c'est le moment de faire la fête. C'est le moment de faire la fête.
Next time on The Couch with Falz Laila.
Governance and government is evaluated positive or negative depending on how it affects the people. So the people are the common denominator.
This is Nigeria. Look how I'm living now. Look how I'm living now. Everybody be criminal. This is Nigeria.